What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. So today's video is going to be focused about these two rocker switches right here and what I've got run to them and how I got them all set up. It's not a full installation video because this took me about 3 or 4 weekends to get completed, mainly because it gets dark at 5 o'clock and I was just working on it whenever I had free time. So let's get right into it. So what I ordered was a little sort of holder, like this little plastic piece off of Etsy. I will link that down below. So that is part number 1. All that really does is it's literally just a plastic piece with some 3M that just sits inside this little thing and holds these two switches. You can get whatever switches you want here. It doesn't make a difference. I actually went ahead and screwed this in behind the switches. Like I sort of angled the screws because there's a little lip where the 3M was. I screwed that in so that it'll stay put because the 3M was not holding up very well. So I would recommend doing that. There's no, like, I'm not worried about putting any holes in the cubby because I'll literally never not have this again. Even if I don't use the lights, I will probably just keep this rocker switch panel up. And then you want to go ahead and purchase whatever rocker switch and harness you want. I recommend just buying the switch with harness. So I know this one's on Amazon from Nightlight. This one, same thing. You can get different switches. A bunch of companies sell them. It doesn't really make a difference, but I would recommend just going ahead and buying the wiring harness. Just makes your life easy. This was another one I had as backup. So this says passenger eject. Pretty much these are 5-prong switches. So you got 2 negative. You've got the power for this bottom light right here. You've got the accessory power on this bottom left one here, and then you got the other power for the switch. If you watched my other video about the 3-prong one, this one's slightly different, but same concept. The instructions when you buy the harness are very clear what each one does and how, like, the different options you can wire it. I wired it to where both lights on each switch come on when they're on. Initially it's wired to where these bottom ones stay on all the time and the top ones come on when the lights are powered. I went ahead and just kept it to where both come on because I don't like seeing the little blue light on all the time, especially none of the other lights are on in the truck. It just doesn't make sense. So this is the setup here. You got to drill a hole in the back of this cubby. It's just whatever will fit your wiring. It's not that big of a hole. I mean, you can pretty much just open up that whole backside of this cubby because you'll never not have this on here. So now for wiring, you want to drop your glove box and then you'll fish the wires from behind the switch down to right here. So all that's doing is this is really simple. You just pull the wire underneath the glove box down, there'll be a little open area behind here, down right there, and then you have to fish them. I don't know if you can see that. You'll fish them. There's a little, you might have to pull this carpet back right here, but you'll fish them behind this low AC vent or heat vent over here. So we're back over here now. So as you can see, the yellow wires were just pulled through with a little metal line across the truck. It's really not that difficult. As long as you just tape them really good, that metal line, you can easily push the wires through. And then I just zip tied those together and then they go out the firewall little port there. So you just push that guy out and you can run the wires through, get everything tight. I didn't cut that. They're just off to the side and it still fits flush in there with no problem. So I would recommend just doing that. And now we will show you the engine bay. So this is when the wiring harness starts to split off. So you'll pull your positive and negative to the front of the vehicle, and then the actual accessory positive and negative will go down to wherever, or up front, depends on where you're mounting the light. So everything I did for those 2 switches are on the back of the truck. So there'll be 4 wires, 2 for each accessory going down and running along the truck. I'll show you all that in a second. But then the main positive and negative, I put some conduit over it. So the wires just run through here, underneath here. As you can see, it's not the cleanest yet. I still plan to make it a little bit better. But I've got I've got 3 negatives. So I've got 2 light bars and bed lights in here. And then same thing over here. So it's a lot of wiring, but it's not that bad. And you get the built-in fuses right there as well. So this does take a minute to make it clean. I like this conduit. I ran this underneath the entire truck, which you all see here. So as you can see there, I zip tied it to the main harness, and then it just runs along the whole cab right there. So it's everything is zip tied underneath that black conduit. As you see where it goes up, I had to cut it and open it, but it just runs all the way back. All right, so on the driver's side where the cab meets the bed is where the wiring for the bed lights breaks off, and as you see, that goes up and it goes into that bottom port of the cab right there. So I'll show you how that is wired now, and then I'll show you the rest of the reverse lights. So it runs, I ran it back in this corner, so behind the bed liner is that hole. So I fished the wiring from here down this crack I have beneath here and out. So this was probably the biggest pain to do, but it's a clean install, so where you see no wiring. If you don't have bed liner, then you just got to figure out how to like mount the wiring to where you don't see it, but that's pretty much it. And then these, like I said, this one's connected. The wiring, the extra wiring I just tucked in that crack over there, because those two are connected together. They're held up by these little clips. So these just screw in on top. It's got 3 in behind here, but really that's just, they are temporarily to help you mount it. So the extra wiring, this goes down in that crack. And then this one also has got its own wiring. So that's why you saw there's 2 wires, 2 black wires. One for this strand and one for these 2 strands that go down that crack and out. Now for the rest of these lower lights here, as you see on each side, the wires come from, so you can see the conduit stops right there. That's where I showed you from the other angle. And then I got it zip tied onto this. And I've got it run up on top of the, behind this spare tire. And then this is where it splits off. So you got 2 wires, positive and negative, for this light. And then you got 2 wires for that light. So in total, I've got like 6 wires running all the way to the front of the cab. So it's really important to keep it clean and organized. I also went through like 40 feet of extra 14 gauge wire, which is what this is, because the harness did not come with enough wiring to reach the back of the truck, as you can imagine. So this simply just goes to right here, and then I got a zip tied right there, the connection. And then I use the existing outside bolt on the bumper here, and then I drilled the inside bolt right there. So in order to put that nut on the top and here, you're going to want to drop this bolt, because you can pull this down and it gives you some room to play. But pretty much you want to put that bolt on first, line this up here, Sharpie right here, move the light out of the way, drill your hole, you know, like do the paint where you exposed any metal, and then put your screw through, and then just tighten it down with the nut there. So that's how that's done. Same exact thing on the other side. So new hole here, existing hole here, and I got it tilted up a little bit with this screw here on each side, just so it, you know, it blinds whoever's behind me in case it's got to be used for that way. But that's really installed. So you just, like I said, you mount this one on, you have this bolt in, you come here, you get your Sharpie, angle it up, put a notch right there big enough to fit this screw, and then you just drill into the bumper, and then you attach your nut and bolt. It's really simple. If you don't want to drill this hole, you can get like a piece of aluminum and put it there, so you'll have two of the existing and then 2 new holes, and you can slightly like adjust it. I think this looks pretty good. It does look like it's leaning a little bit, but that's just how the bumper is. So it's sort of playing with your eyes, but at the same time, it's whatever. It does its job. It looks good. So that is how that's run. The bed lights work great. I'm going to throw in a clip of them at night right here. Bars are down here, very bright. very bright. I got them angled up, and I mean, it's lighting up all that and on the ground, so it gets it pretty well. And then the bed lights, really bright inside, so they work great. Yeah, so as you guys saw, they look great at night. I did make it more complicated on myself by having everything wired to these two switches, because you could have just simply wired the backup lights to the trailer harness to where they're powered in reverse. But I want to be able to have full control over that, so I went ahead and did it to where they can be powered on at any moment. If somebody needs some extra light behind me, not saying you should, but if someone's tailgating you or has your high beams on, you can give them a little flash, let them know behind you, because they're angled right into their eyes, which is sort of cool to have that luxury of just being able to flip it on and off whenever you want. Same thing with the bed lights, just being able to do that from inside the cab. I don't know why I would need to do that inside the cab, because technically it comes with a little switch on the harness to where you can put it in the bed. So okay, when you're actually using the bed, you can turn it on and off. But why do that when I have the extra switch here? So I made it way more complicated by doing the rocker switches, but I just want to show y'all how I did it. If you got any other questions about how I ran anything, it's mainly just running that wire from there all the way back is where you have to buy that extra 14 gauge wire. So one last thing I forgot to mention about the bed lights. If you're not going to use the original switch and you want to do what I did with the rocker switch, you need to cut the original switch off, and you need to tie those two positive and negative wires together so that they're completing the circuit, or else the lights won't turn on. So pretty much just splice those together somehow, however you want to do it, and just make sure those are together, because if not, then the lights will not turn on. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope this video helped. Any other questions, drop them down below. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you all in the next one. Happy New Year.